However, they're also calling the government to come and address some of these factors. And I think if they pursue this ruling, if they appeal it to the Supreme Court, it's 50-50. They might succeed at the Supreme Court.
Yes. Well, right there, remember, this is actually one of the finance acts that has caught the eye and attention of most Kenyans.
Yes.
In the previous, we never saw this kind of discussion, the court derailing this kind of implementations, and this is actually the very first time. And as you've been saying, some sections have been raising eyebrows. And now last week, the Court of Appeal, or rather the three-judge bench, agreed unanimously that in case the court later on finds some sections unconstitutional, then Kenyans will be refunded. How possible is that?
That's a lie. Flatly. However, let us sugarcoat it. So let us assume we're operating in a utopian country where everything happens the way it's supposed to be. And if you were to ask KRA today, how much they owe people in unrefunded sums, how much? It's billions of shillings. Now, think about it this way. I go against the law. I go against the Constitution.
Yes.
And then you empower me to start the process, which one party is failing, that is unconstitutional.
Yeah.
Then in this case, they will, let's say they're saying they will lose, let's say 211 billion if they are not allowed to proceed. They're losing how much per day? Now, should we allow them to collect that which is unlawful? And if you're going before the court and presenting your case, and someone is saying, let it continue as I present my case. So it doesn't make sense. Refunding this money will be procedurally hard for the state. It will be very expensive for them to refund the monies. Number two, if you're saying you refund the money, will you refund the money with interest? Because if today, let's say, according to, if you see the argument I think it was of Kiom Tata, and also, besides that, the government side argument, they were saying, the court might take so long, the applicants were saying the court might take so long to impanel a bench, which will disenfranchise them. Now, number two, they are losing so much in collection. Number three, this money can be returned, and all those factors that they're saying. But now look at it this way. This money, if you take it away from Mwananchi, who is maybe doing business, Mama Mboga who is doing business, and all of us who are doing business, the money is taken away from you. It's like a denied capital. Yes. You are supposed to earn based on this money. Let's assume I'm paying maybe 50,000 every month. If I 50,000 extra, that 50,000 I can reinvest it in my business. So they should be able to tell us, when you're returning my money, what rate are you going to use? What if my money multiplies at the rate of 3% per month? Are you going to give me at that rate? Or how are you going to give me back my money? Are you going to give me the flat amount? Or what are you going to give me? So if you check it clearly, I think whatever they're saying per se does not make sense. Because it will be very, very procedurally inefficient and very, very expensive for them to refund the money. And if you check it also, the cost of waiting for this decision to be made, which the Court of Appeal was saying should take maximum, I think, 60 days, the cost of waiting for the 60 days versus the cost you will incur when you are refunding all this money. Yeah. Which one ranks higher? Now, we have also seen KRA saying that, oh, if this thing passes, we are going to backdate.
That is the question. If they are backdating, what is in for the common man, for me and others?
You see, we usually say, the law is the law. Now, this law was passed back then, before, you know, the court process started even before the president had signed the law.
Yes, yes.
So, you see, the Court of Appeal is saying there are factors which keep on cropping up as we proceed, because this case started even before the signing was done, before it came into law. But now, the moment it came into law, remember, unless the court sets it aside, it starts operating from the date was signed and gazetted.
Yes. Now, the court, remember, it did set it aside after it was signed.
Yes.
after the petitions.
Yes.
Last week, that was almost the end of July.
Yeah.
Now, when will they backdate, or rather, up to when will they backdate?
From the day he started operating.
That is last week.
Yes. No. Not from the day the court ruled. From the day it was signed.
Why?
Because it has not
petitioned.
It is. You see, what if the petition fails? It means there was no problem with the law. It means it should proceed as it was.
Yes.
You see.
So that means that as an employer and as an employee, I have to incur that extra cost.
Yes.
That I was supposed to incur.
Yes. That is the law. Unfortunately, that is the truth behind the law, that nobody is willing to tell us, that the politicians are silent about, that the discussions are silent about, because, it's hot potato. But the truth of the matter is, once law sets in, it operates from the date it was set, unless we move to court. And unless court under Section 22, 23, 24 set it aside. Otherwise, constitutionally, we are a lawful nation. For as long as the court rules that it was done constitutionally, then we are bound, and we have to live by it. And you have to pay. Yesterday I was trying to do maths, and it's not making sense, but you have to pay it.
Because I'm looking at this month, July. That means that if you're earning 800,000 and above, your 35% is already gone.
Is it 800 or even 500?
500 to 800 is 32.5%.
Yeah.
That is gone. Well, that is Oruko telling me that since it was signed, if the court does not find it unconstitutional, then you have to part away with some good money. And today's Standard captured it well. Hustler agenda takes back seat as talks begin, and some of the issues raised there is Kenyans begin to feel the heat of new taxes, and that is on the excise duty, import duty, and also chamas. Remember the merry-go-rounds that people have. They will now have to look for a way to survive as new taxes are being introduced. And also sugar, the prices are hitting high this month of July, 260. Who knows, come August, starting tomorrow, how much will a kilogram of sugar retail at? Well, we've seen that. Now, if KRA backdates, how is that going to affect us?
You have to pay. And it will. The pinch, you see, Kenyans are yet to come to the reality of what this Finance Act 2023 looks like. And I think by the end of this month, Kenyans will really appreciate Okiya Omtata, a man I respect a lot. And the petitioners, Kina Benson, Kina Angima, Kenyans will, right now, in Kenya, we have to look at, we love looking at things politically. And even if something is pinching me, but it is, let's say I support the Raila side, I will not see any problem with it. Right? Let's say I support the president side, I will not see the issue with it. But towards the end of this month, and when these things start cropping in, the housing levy start cropping in, we have the increases in deductions start setting in. And then our Kenyans will start feeling it. Remember, fuel is high. Sugar na smiti zinakimbizana hivi. I think sugar sahi kilo mbili of
almost
sugar.
500.
Yes, smiti is going for 600. So if you take 2 kgs of sugar, you add 60 bob. You go to a hardware, they give you smiti. You see?
Cement.
Yeah. So it's really it will really be hard for Kenyans. This year it will, because you see this thing will go for 12 months. It will really be hard. But they're adding it piecemeal. There are those which take effect in September. There are those which take effect like that. But a pinch is a pinch. It will really take a slingshot on us. Very much. Mostly the hustlers. I usually assume hustler is. I like putting it with respect to Mama Mboga. I like thinking at it in terms of Mama Mboga, because this is someone who is making maybe 300 in a day. Now think about it this way: you're Mama Mboga and you're a single mother. Or you're Baba Mboga, you even also have Baba Mboga, and you're a single dad. So you are not two people who are bringing their incomes together. So let's say you're earning 400.
Yes.
How do you even start even thinking about what to buy and what not to buy? So it will really hit us by the end of the month. It will really hit us. Yes.
Well, remember, Okiya Omutata has been a man riding alone when he feels that the interest of the common man is not involved. Well, right there, this is, I think, for the many years I've known him, Okiya Omutata has always been ready to fight for common man, or rather the Wanjikos of this country. Now, let's shift gears now to matters politics. We understand that there are possibilities of having dialogue between the Kenya Kwanza and the Azimio, the opposition and the government, to try and settle the issues. From last week, we saw indications immediately before President went to Tanzania, that is William Ruto. Through his Twitter, he told the opposition chief Raila Odinga that he is always open and available for talks, and he will be ready to talk once he gets back in the country. Yes, he did, and just a day before, we had seen the opposition chief Raila Odinga during an interview claiming that Tanzanian President Samia Suluhu was in the country in a bid to make sure that the two leaders hold talks and agree on certain issues. But now the Kenya Kwanza camp issued some 5 main points with regards to what the dialogue should have. But Odinga's side has also raised certain issues they feel must be involved in the dialogue. Well, some of the issues raised by the Kenya Kwanza team is reconstitution of IEBC, implementation of 2/3 gender rule, entrenchment of CDF, entrenchment of the office of the leader of the opposition, embedment of the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary. Those are the 5 issues raised by the Kenya Kwanza, that is the government side, that should be on the dialogue. But now the opposition, that is Odinga's team, now says the following should be on the table before we discuss: cost of living, which was not involved, or rather included by the Kenya Kwanza side, audit of election servers. How possible is that?
When we were at the Supreme Court, as we were watching the case, we saw the argument by IBC that due to national interest factors, we cannot open this server to the public, because the moment we open it to the public, its framework has already been infected, and we will have to dispose it and come up with a new one, because it was a national security matter. Yes. So as at right now, even where they're raising those facts and they're saying we need to audit it, it becomes very hard, because there's this issue that it becomes unfair to the government, according to the argument of IBC, that it will be expensive. Yes. And that why should we audit it if after auditing it, we will throw it away? So that usually has been the main issue. But I feel we should come up with modalities of making sure that if IBC is playing the referee, then both sides feel like the referee plays a good game. We can borrow it from, I think it was Ghana. Yes. Who have tried so much to make sure that even if both players are playing the game, we try as much as possible for them to see as if fairness has been done. And remember the other time I was telling you, we don't only, we have the substance of procedure, I mean substance of justice, and we have the procedure of ensuring that that justice has been met. So if one party feels like, yes, there is a law providing, Election Act and all those laws are providing, IBC Act are providing for how justice is to be met. But I'm feeling that the procedure that I have to follow does not give me that justice. Yes. Then if justice is not seen as done, then every year after every election, you always have that fight of auditing the server. Because one party feels like they're disadvantaged. So they should come up with ways to audit it. But I'm just asking myself, can they? I think so. I don't think so, because after auditing, according to the argument, it will have to be disposed. So auditing and then disposing is more expensive to not auditing. So I think that one will still be an uphill task for them.
Okay. So it's almost a year and still Odinga's team is insisting they have to audit the election servers. Well, if they audit, President William Ruto has been the president, the 5th president, for almost a year. How will that even affect what next? Well, now reforming IBC and the future election infrastructure, that is basically what you've been talking about, and the cost it might have, or rather the impact on cost it might have when the election servers are audited. Then accountability for police brutality. This is a very serious one. Remember, the opposition has been insisting the government used force to make sure that they do not carry forth with their maandamano.
Yes.
And we saw a number lost their lives and many were injured in this process. And now, Azimio is insisting they have to be compensated. The police have to be accountable for this. So if this has been an issue, and we saw the president defending the police, saying they have exercised professionalism.
Yes.
So how is this going to affect these talks?
Now, you see, we in this country, we have this thing of encouraging police brutality. And it's very, very wrong. You see, police brutality makes sense until it meets your house. That brutality, because, you see, we saw this guy at Madare who was saying that the tear gas that you're lobbing towards the residential areas are really affecting our kids. You see? And this guy was arguing that my kid cannot even breathe. He keeps on fainting because of the tear gas that you're lobbing towards the residential. Huku hakuna watu wanaandamana. There are no people who are protesting this side. Please lobby the other side, so that you also take care of the interests of our kid. And you saw the way the guy was dealt with. We've seen people who have died because of maandamano. We've seen people who are injured, and maybe some of them have their bones fractured because of maandamano. This is because the police sees you in protest as an adversary.
Yes.
They see you as an enemy. But now, like I was saying at the time, police needs to be taught that our laws really changed. And the protester is not per se your enemy. What they need to be taught is people management. You know, managing people can be very, very frustrating. But they need to be taught to have that patience with these people who are feeling like something bad has been happening to them, and maybe they need to be heard. But when it comes to brutality, I think that one, when the president was saying that a good job was done, I think the president was looking at it holistically, and he was not looking at the small, or the fewer injuries that were made, but he was trying to look at it at how they were able to manage the country. We cannot also just talk negatively about the police. You remember, the other day I saw one in Kisumu, I saw one also in Machakos, where the police was trying to talk with those ones who are trying to tell them, please, do not ban things. We know you are frustrated, but please, do not. So there are those police who are very good. So if you look at it holistically, because now the president receives the report, he might be speaking at an angle that maybe we don't know. Yeah.
Well, now these are two contrasting issues raised by both camps, each insisting that certain things must be met. And we saw that the cost of living was not an issue, according to that letter which was signed by the majority leader, Kimani Ichung'wah. And you see, the government has been saying, if the cost of living is the issue, why don't you come up with ways that we can handle the cost of living, reduce it, then table it on the table. Let's discuss about it. But then, according to a letter that they signed, that is the government side, led by Kimani Ichung'wah, signed, doesn't include that as an issue. Yet Azimio has been insisting cost of living must be an issue that we have to talk about. We have to find a way to solve it. How come they did not involve it?
You see, cost of living requires a very, very, very in-depth structure of argument. Now, number two, you see, if you go and mix the political discussions with important issues like cost of living discussions, then you know which one will suffer. Number three, if if we find that they fail to include it, then it means they are yet to structurally come up with reasons of how they think maybe this issue should be handled. But cost of living is something that we cannot run away from. We cannot run away from it. Look even at our behaviors. In the country, we are taking the agricultural rich areas, we are subdividing them into quotas, and we are selling them. So the president and the government need to come up with modalities to protect those areas which used to be our bread basket. And one of those areas is, we have Kiambu, we have Uasin Gishu, we have Nakuru, you see, we have Trans Nzoia. Those are areas which are bread baskets. But what's happening these days, the farmers maybe might be feeling like agriculture has been neglected. If you go to coffee farmers, they are promoting the coffee. If you go to maize farmers, they are being told, you guys try doing avocado. But you know, in Kenya, hardly can someone stay for let's say 2 days without eating ugali. Ugali has been our staple food for a long time. So there are issues which need to be addressed. And if you check cost of living, we also need to tame it based on our taxation policies. The people who are advising the president should be able to tell the president that taxation has a very, very direct effect to poverty. The more I tax you, it's the more I additional tax you. Let's say you're paying the government 30,000 or 40,000 every month. I mean the tax through taxes, and now you have to pay 50,000. It means from that 10,000 which you could have taken to a money market fund somewhere, from that 10,000 which you could have cumulatively taken to open a shop somewhere, from that 10,000 which you could have saved, it is taken away from you. So it means what suffers, the government cannot suffer because it has to take its money upfront. So what suffers is that investment which you could have come up with. And you see, the government has been part of the government, and I think I also heard the president talk about it. He was saying that it is these people who are employed who don't want you people who are not employed to do what? To progress. So when you say it that way, I am working, I am being taxed maybe 20, 30, whatever percent. Now, do you mean that my 100,000 per month is different from the 100,000 per month of someone who's selling oranges? My 100,000 per month is not different from 100,000 per month from someone who is doing juakali. So what the president should have done was reduce on the income tax, because it's really injuring those who are working, because they have to pay the income tax, and then they also have to come and pay the VAT and all these other deductions. Reduce on it. And then increase your taxes on the VAT so that everybody in the country is able to pay the VAT, not just a selected few. So if you have to consume, then you have to pay for it.
And now we've seen that amongst the 10 people who will now be involved, or rather are proposed to be in the discussion, they have, yes, it is a good thing they have included at least non-parliamentarians this time round. But still, we have more politicians on the table. To what extent are some of these issues going to be addressed from the Mwananchi perspective?
The day election, the day you cast your vote, 1 minute after casting your vote, you're always given, two things are done. It is marked upon you that you cannot vote again. Your ID is given back to you. That's the day your importance as a voter ends. So, if you still think that your interest will be represented as a voter, then I don't have to tell you the truth, but you're living a lie. Those people, per se, once you elect someone, they rarely look at how better do they come out when it comes to the next election. We are no longer important to them. But now, if in the constitution of this panel, or this number of members of parliament and non-members of parliament who are going to help us through this process of mediation and dialogue, because I don't know if it is really, I think it's dialogue. It's not mediation. It's per se dialogue. Because if you look at these two members, these two parties, Raila Odinga side, Samuel Ruto side. So you find that they control 95% of the parliament directly, and then indirectly the other 5% which they can whip. Now, if today they decide to change the constitution, they will through the parliament. If the two of them come together, they will. Now, number two, the members of parliament whom they have put in that team represent their interests.
Yes.
So these members of parliament will not be doing any talk or any mediation. They will not be representing their mindsets or the mindsets of the Mwananchi.
Yes.
However, they act as the loudspeaker through which their leaders can speak. So whatever former Prime Minister says is what is reverberated by its team. Whatever comes from State House, from President, is what the team has to say. And they don't have anything to say. What people don't understand is that dialogue is usually two people. Dialogue is just two people, like me and you, agreeing on something. And then going outside there and telling people that, you know what, we have agreed. Mediation is where there is some bone of contention. It is us who are coming up with the decision, but we are being led towards coming up with the decision. So if we say there are mediation talks, whom amongst the team do you think can lead the president to make a decision? Who amongst the team do you think can go and tell Raila Odinga that, you know what, this is wrong, we have to go by this, that we have decided, we have sat and decided that we have to go with this. It doesn't make sense to me. However, I must appreciate, when I saw the document, I must appreciate something. That the president, when the president came in, back then, September, there's this memoranda around around December 2022, that the president signed, and he had 4 issues he was really thinking should be addressed. And one of them was gender inclusion through affirmative action. You see, gender inclusion is something that should be looked at. If you check, they are also saying we need to, besides gender inclusion, we need also to come through with, to ensure that through NGAF, the National Government Affirmative Action Funds, we need to develop our constituencies. That's also something which is very important.
Let's talk about the 2/3 gender rule that you've just addressed. How possible is this? Because I feel it is either culture that has derailed the implementation of 2/3 gender rule, or sometimes it's just in the ladies. Because let's look at from the political positions they contest. It is recently that we've now seen the numbers are starting to come up. How possible can this be achieved, the 2/3 gender rule?
There is nothing that cannot be achieved if we purpose to achieve it.
Yes.
We have seen a lot of developments in law. We have seen developments that are requiring inclusion. From the judiciary. The judiciary has tried as much. The executive has tried as much. We are only having a problem with one arm of the government, which is the legislature. Now, if you look at, this issue has been with us for a very long time. You remember the other time Maraga had written a letter requiring that the parliament be dissolved because they had failed in their mandate of ensuring that they had come up with ways to treat the gender inclusion bit. But besides our culture, and you know the laws that you have passed are saying that we will celebrate those cultural practices which are good and inclusive, and we will not celebrate those ones which cause discrimination, maybe according to Article 27. So we don't want any member of the public, because they're also contributing. We don't want to disenfranchise them. I usually feel like it's not about the community per se. It is the disenfranchisement that has happened to women and to some parts of the nation that have led to this kind of gender exclusion and the need for affirmative action when dealing with some other parts of the country. Take, for example, Wajir. If you've gone to Wajir, first of all, reaching Wajir, the road itself is not very good. Now, number 2, our culture tends to think that a woman should not do some things. In that, if you think about a certain position and then you think about a woman, you start feeling like maybe they will not manage. You see, it is so entrenched in us, but that's not true. Those are cultural practices which the president now is coming out and saying, Parliament, you are the people who can help us come with the laws. Sit down, think about all these processes
Yes.
and come up with ways in which, even if we don't find a solution, we can start to find a path through which we can follow towards achieving this, because it might take us even 20 years to achieve it, but a step forward is better than no step taken.
Yes. Well, a step forward is better. Well, we do hope that it will be implemented and a way out will be found. Let's talk about one issue that the Kenya Kwanza team raised earlier on about the embedment of the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary. And not just that alone, you know, we've seen leaders from the Kenya Kwanza team, a section of them are against this dialogue. Let's start with the Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, has been vocal about it. We don't want any type of handshake, power sharing or any other issue. And, you know, due to the selfish interest that people might be having, especially the political class, at times they might want such talks or any form of dialogue not to exist because they feel they might lose. Well, this applies to both parties, the opposition and the government itself. So, and you see, we've seen some leaders, that is from the lobby group side, urging politicians not to get in between the two leaders and stopping them from having a dialogue. So how are they likely to lose, let's say, come the next election time, if they have a dialogue, they get to agree on certain issues and amicably resolve them?
If I were the Deputy President, the moment the dialogue process begins, I start going opposition. That's the only way you can benefit. Remember, the current president did the same.
But this is the first term.
Yes.
You go opposition,
Yes,
probability of
but
becoming the president.
does he want to? That's the question. Does he want to? If he wants to, then he has no option but to keep quiet, tame yourself, wait until post-2027. But the truth of the matter is, the deputy president's powers are usually clipped the moment a negotiation is done or a dialogue is done, which brings in another party. Remember, Raila Odinga is not just someone you just, it's not a lightweight. And if you were to compare Raila Odinga, president, and deputy president, you know who is number 3. We can argue about number 1 and number 2, but you know who is number 3. You see? And in this case, then the number 3 sometimes might feel like his staff will be taken away from him. Keeping in mind, if you check the Raila Odinga side, there is the shadow. If you check the shadow of Raila Odinga, there is Uhuru Kenyatta there.
Yes.
Remember, the turf of the main turf of our deputy president is Central Kenya. So he knows very well that if you empower Raila Odinga, and Raila Odinga had made some little inroads, and besides Raila Odinga, there's the former governor Muranga. Besides Raila Odinga, there is the former governor, was it Kirinyaga or what? No, not Kirinyaga, Nyandarua. Besides Raila Odinga is the former president. You know, these are 3 people who can gang up to finish you. So the only, and that's why you see, he tends not to want the dialogue, Kapsa, because it will bring someone else besides the president.
Yes.
If you want to approach the president today, you're likely, and he even said it, Honorable Gachagua said it, that Mupange laini, sahi, if you want to go to the president, you have to pass through me.
Yes.
So, panga laini. And if I get someone on the line who did not vote for the president, I will remove them and take them back. That's what he said in one of the functions. It's in the public forum. So, such kind of statements means that he wants to sit at a position that is next to the president. He's the go-to person before you can reach the president. But now, if you bring in Raila Odinga and you don't know what they're saying, remember, if you could listen to some of the things that the current president was saying, he was saying that when Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta were talking, he might not have been well informed about what they were discussing. So he was just operating while not knowing. The same thing will happen. If these 2 people are to talk, I don't think they will invite anybody else.
Because according to different sources, we've seen over the weekend that they might have probably met on Friday and agreed on a few issues in Mombasa County. Well, that is just something that is not yet confirmed, but according to some sources that is written, it has also been over the weekend, the 2 days we've been hearing that they might have met without the DP. And now some sections, they're saying if you allow him in the government or you have any kind of dialogue, then we might leave.
Leave to where?
That is a question.
Leave to where? You know, the whole of Central is UDA. Do you know that? Now, where are you leaving to? Not per se the whole of Central, but a better chunk, almost more than 80% is UDA. Where are you leaving to? And even those who are not UDA are warming up towards UDA. So where are you leaving to? Where are you heading towards? And now you look at you look at it this way. If I leave, what impact am I likely to cause? Because you might leave and then the president just wakes up and says, you've decided to leave, it's okay, let me start grooming Ndindi Nyoro, a very, very young and very, very astute person, very, very bright person. Ndindi Nyoro is very bright. So let me start grooming Ndindi. And it becomes a threat to you because this person is young, you're old. You know, a young person reverberates well with young people. So it becomes hard to live. But now we usually say, there's nothing big in this country, in this world, that can be built by chance or by luck. No. If you see them warming up, the other time I saw, if you see these politicians starts calling one another my brother, the moment you see that name, my brother, know that behind that my brother is a series of meetings that have calmed them down to a tone of my brother. And then go back and look at what response is this person giving. The person on the side of Raila Odinga's side has stopped saying, on Wednesday, on Thursday, on Friday, he has stopped and is now saying, let us talk as a nation. So you know that these people have talked. And now I think both sides are trying to pull their sides and are trying to look at their interests, politicians being who they are. But for the interest of the nation, dialogue is usually important. We don't want a situation where you can't reach your work, you can't be productive, the country, part of what you have made in the country is being destroyed. The investors are looking at the country and saying this country is more risky to operate in. Let us go to another country. We don't want those kind of situations. We want a situation where if you as ADIKA was to lose an election, then you are welcoming to me, and I'm welcoming to you because you also had your reasons and you have people who supported you. And with that, also we see, I think these people are also fighting the office of the, besides the Prime Cabinet Secretary, they're also fighting the office of the opposition, because these are things which are going to empower the opposition. Because you know, the moment the office is created, budget comes in. Now, there was this issue we're asking about embedding of the prime, we usually call it the Mudavadi position. Now, you see, they're using a big word of embedding. Embedding just means fix. You see, so if you look, when they're campaigning, there was this issue of we don't want to speak about positions. We want to speak about what you're going to do to Mwananchi. But after the Mwananchi had voted, we are now speaking about fixing additional positions. And then you will ask, where did this position come from? If this guy is already earning salary, if this guy is already having functions, if this guy has ministers working under him, then if it's when you want to embed it, then where did the position come from? How are you paying the person? Is the person illegally in office? What's really happening? So there are all those issues which have to be discussed around what decision need to be made. But bringing also the politicians to represent Mwananchi kidogo. By the way, do we have any Mama Mboga who has been included in the list?
Not yet, but they discussed, agreed that they will find 4 from other groups, then 6 out of the 10 from the parliament.
Will it even work? Because imagine, if you try to imagine this, you bring a Mama Mboga from a great place, Kibra, Olympic. You go to Kibra Olympic stage, you say, Mama Mboga, there's a mama who usually sells groundnuts there for a very long time, has been selling groundnuts there. So you go there and say, I've been seeing you selling groundnuts here. You, Mzee, I've been seeing you selling bananas here. You, Mama, I've been seeing you selling sugarcane here. And you also have been seeing you opening a small stall. So all of you qualify to be called Mama Mboga or hustlers. And then you bring these people to a panel. And then at the panel, they meet Kimani Ichung'wah, who is their hero. Do you think they will speak? Do you think they even know the issues that have, how the structure of the issues needs to be handled? So in this case, I think before forming this panel, they should have called for something called public participation so that they understand how the public could have wanted some of these issues to be handled besides the politicians' view.
Well, taking a look on our socials, right there, Wangari Wagithi says, good morning, tuned in from Kiambu County. Elijah Kimani Wakandara, anasema good morning. Nanzie, good morning, tuned in from, can't really get the name, but she's well presented. Cynthia Nanjala, great analysis, thank you. JB Mogaka, comrade Jack, thank you for tuning in. Your parting shot with regards to the current state of the nation, from the aspect of the cost of living to the aspect of the current political state, the dialogue issue. Remember, Kalonzo Musyoka is silent. So Martha Karua, they have not yet expressed their stand with regards to these issues being raised. What will be your parting shot? Where are we as a nation?
My parting shot, first of all, to Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka is that he stands to benefit more from this. He stands to benefit more if he plays his cards so well. About Martha Karua, I'm not quite sure about how Martha Karua stands to benefit from it.
But, you know, people downplay Martha Karua. But remember, during the coalition government, she played a major role in making sure that the late President Kibaki stands.
But you see, politics is not what you do in the office.
Yes.
Politics is how you can convince the masses based on what you're doing in the public. I mean, in the office. So you might be very, very nice in the office. For example, our former president, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. There are things which he did which are very good. But because people don't align and associate much with them, so you find that it becomes very hard to convince them. Now, on the matter of dialogue, I think the two protagonists, that is our president and the Bwana Raila Odinga, they need to sit down and talk. And when it comes to the cost of living, we have to tell Kenyans the truth that we will have to fasten our belts. We will have to do away with what we can't do away with, because the reality has hit us, and it will be very, very hard for us to think that the process that has already started for the government to collect tax will change or will become any different.
Yes.
So that's my parting shot.
Well, many thanks for joining us this morning, Oruko Were there, who happens to be a lawyer and also a political analyst. Remember, this is where Kenya is right now. The opposition and also the government, both of them want to have dialogue, but with the different interests and also issues raised there. You can take a look on today's dailies, some of the issues raised, and also a section of the opposition leaders are now saying the issues you want we talk about are not the issues that should be addressed. These are not the issues that we've been pushing for. Remember, the opposition has been vocal with regards to the Sufuria movement, urging the government that we should now talk about the cost of living. And Oruko Were has just clearly told us it is time you fasten your belt and be ready for a very tough time with regards to the cost of living, despite farmers from the North Rift and also Western Kenya saying that we are expecting a bumper harvest. Well, that is only on the side of the cost of unga might reduce after they harvest starting this month of August, which we will be getting in tomorrow. Well, we shall be taking a look on what will be transpiring throughout the day, and also we expect that Okio Mutata, that is Busia Senator, and 3 others to head to the Supreme Court to petition the Court of Appeals decision to lift the suspension on the Finance Act 2023. Make sure you continue following us on our socials at EBN TV and at SAMMY ADIKA. Well, do have yourselves a wonderful day ahead.
Yes.